These are the sneaker releases that you need to know about in February 2024. This is Sit or Sell. So I know January was a tough month for sneaker releases. I even struggled finding sneakers to put in the January Sit or Sell video, but February, everything changes. And that's mainly because of All-Star Weekend. There are so many crazy releases dropping around All-Star Weekend that this is one of the longest Sit or Sell videos I've dropped in a while. But first, I want to give a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Harry's. Let's go pick some up at Target. So I've been using Harry's razors for the last few years, and I absolutely love them. First of all, they make these incredibly ergonomic handles, which feel great in your hand and make hitting those hard to reach places super easy, which is one of the reasons why they give you such a clean and close shave. And not only do they make razors, but they also make pretty much everything that you'd ever need to keep yourself looking fresh. So Harry's has a bunch of different options. You've got their Truman handle, which comes with a couple different heads. You've got the Truman handle with just one head. And then you've also got the Winston handle, which is one that I actually don't have, so I'm gonna grab this one. GQ actually called the Winston razor the best razor of 2023, so you know I had to grab it. Plus, this is a chrome edition, which is awesome. You know what, while I'm here, why don't I grab some Harry's foaming shave gel, some post-shave balm, and of course, some extra cartridges. Yo, it is super convenient to grab everything you need from Harry's at Target. This is awesome. I'm not gonna lie, it is so easy to grab Harry's razors at your local Target, a place that I go to at least once a week, meaning that I don't have to make any special trips or stops to grab new razors. I can just grab them where I'm already going. Make sure to check out Harry's next time you're at your local Target, and let me know in the comment section down below what you guys pick up. Once again, huge thank you to Harry's for sponsoring today's video. Starting things off, on February 1st, we've got the Nike Dunk Low Midnight Navy Tour Yellow. I'm not gonna lie, this is not the most exciting Nike Dunk Low we've ever seen. It comes with a black tumbled leather upper accented by dark navy overlays and a bright yellow Nike swoosh. That being said, it is still relatively clean. The one problem I have with this release is that they raised the price to $125. Wasn't it just like last year that the price of Nike Dunk Lows was $100, maybe $110 max, but $125 for a standard Nike Dunk Low release? That's a bit much. Like I said, it's a pretty clean looking sneaker, but it's not really anything special, and that price point, that's tough. You might see the sneaker on an upcoming outlet vlog because I'm sure the shoe is gonna hit outlets because in my opinion, I think the shoe is gonna sit on shelves. Oh, and of course, I should mention, if you want to grab any of the shoes that I talk about in today's video, make sure to check out the YouTube shopping tab for each sneaker at the top of the screen. Also dropping on the first, we've got the Converse Swarovski Chuck 70 Deluxe Squared. So I'll be honest, this shoe looks a little wild to me. It's definitely a designer-friendly style look. It's not something that a regular dude like myself would probably rock. Not only that, it's priced at $300. There is a good reason for that though, and that's because the entire upper of the shoe is covered in Swarovski crystals.
Bliss. Glamour. Swarovski crystals.
It's also got a square toe, which I think is kind of an interesting look for a pair of Chucks. It's just not something I would ever see myself wearing. Not to say that's bad if you want to rock it, it's totally cool, but I just couldn't pull that off. I know for a fact I couldn't pull it off, so I'm gonna save $300, pass this one by. That being said though, because the upper of the shoe is entirely bejeweled by Swarovski crystals, I do think that there will be some hype there. Every other Swarovski Nike release that's dropped over the last like 5 or 6 years has eventually sold out. Some went to outlets, but I think they were priced a little bit higher than this, so for that reason, I'm giving this release a sell. However, I also wouldn't be surprised if it didn't move that quickly. Coming in on February 2nd, we've got the Nike Ja 1 Check. Apparently Ja's inspiration behind this colorway is actually Nike and their headquarters. And the reason for that, apparently according to Ja, is that all his life his parents worked for a check and now he works for the check. And I think he means two things by that. One, he's helping his parents out now, and then two, because he literally works for Nike. So I think it's a double entendre there, but I could be wrong. The shoe features a black upper accented by red, orange, and blue hits, again, all taken from Nike's headquarters, and overall, it's a decent looking pair of Nike Ja 1s. However, like we see with a lot of performance basketball sneakers for a popular athlete, the first colorway of that silhouette usually sells out, and then the subsequent colorways end up sitting on shelves. And I think that's gonna remain true for the Ja 1s. I think this colorway will end up sitting. Also dropping on the 2nd, we've got the Nike Dunk Low Light Armory Blue. See, I told you there's a lot of releases this month. We're already on the 4th shoe and we're only on February 2nd. Now this suede pair of Nike Dunk Lows features a very toned down tan, pink, and blue colorway. And I'll be honest, I'm here for it. I think it's a dope look and it's something that I would definitely rock. It's kind of got SB vibes to it a little bit. I don't know why I think that, but it just kind of looks like a colorway that would be on a pair of SBs. Unfortunately, it's not. And also, for some reason, these suede Nike Dunk Lows don't usually do as well as the standard pairs. I don't know why. Maybe just because the color blocking isn't what people want, or maybe they don't like the sort of toned down aesthetic. But either way, although I think it's a great looking colorway, I do think that this shoe will end up sitting on shelves, and hopefully, like I said, I can find this pair at the outlets in the future. And actually, while we're on the topic of February 2nd, I should tell you guys about the upcoming Apothecary Valentines Day drop that's happening on February 2nd at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Now, you guys might have already noticed my Apothecary Valentines Day shirt, which I'm rocking right now. You've got the kisses on the shoulder, and then, of course, the kicks on the back. Of course, in addition to the shirt, we've got two different pairs of matching socks, a white and a black, and you can grab all of these things, the shirts and the socks, officially on our website, apothecary.com, this Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And of course, if you order from our website on launch day, you are guaranteed to have these in before Valentine's Day, so you can rock them with your boo, or buy yourself, maybe to attract a boo. I don't know. Finally, rounding up the second, we've got the Nike Dunk Low Pine Green Varsity Maze. Also known as the Brazil Dunks, this colorway comes in a bright yellow and green upper and is one of the more popular dunk colorways. The last time the shoe released was back in 2020 and it would resell for like $300, which is wild to say for a pair of dunks now. Even though these dunks don't resell like that anymore, it's still a popular colorway, it's still very clean, and in my opinion, I still think this shoe is gonna sell out. Moving on to a very fitting February 3rd, we've got the Air Jordan 3 Craft Ivory. So over the last few months, we've seen Jordan Brand do their craft remakes on different Jordan silhouettes. We've seen it most recently on the 4s. I believe we also had some 2s, and I think even some 1s maybe a year or two ago. Now we're getting it on the Air Jordan 3s. And essentially what the Craft series is, or what it seems like it's trying to communicate, is a pair of shoes that was handmade from pieces laying around, I don't know, a factory or someone's cobble store. As a sneaker reviewer, I should know what a cobbler's store is called. Probably a cobbler's store. That's probably exactly what the name is. All that aside, it's a pair of Air Jordan 3s that has multiple panels on the upper that are made up of different materials. In this case, the elephant print panels on the shoe feature a second panel layered on top of them to make it look a little bit more handmade or a little bit more cobbled together. That being said, the material used on the upper of the shoe does look pretty solid. The tumbled leather looks great. I also kind of like the aged yellow details on the heel tab and on different parts of the Air Jordan 3s, like the toe cap and on the heel, and also on the eyelets of the shoe. It gives the shoe a much more, honestly, off-white look. I mean, I guess if you had thrown like the off-white tag and the off-white stitching details on there, you could have thought of this as an off-white 3. And that's a shoe that I would have loved to have had a silhouette of, but we never got it. So this is kind of that, I guess. But even looking like this and also being an Air Jordan 3, which tends to be one of the more popular Air Jordan silhouettes, I just don't think the hype is there. You can find pairs of these online right now for retail or below before the shoe even releases. So in my opinion, this shoe will end up sitting on shelves. It might sell out on the sneakers app, maybe, but I think there's a really good chance of you being able to walk into your local Foot Locker like the weekend of the release and still find pairs on the shelf. Before we dive into the next releases though, I do want to address something, and that's that, yes, I noticed that there is no New Balances or Asics or even a lot of Adidases on the list. And the reason for that is because these brands don't tend to really tell us about their releases until a couple days before. And that's kind of been the case for pretty much every Sitter Sale video. With Jordan Brand and Nike, we either know about upcoming sneakers because they tell us through press releases and things like that, or because there's a lot of leaks of these sneakers online. So I understand that some of you guys are kind of mad that there isn't a lot of Adidas, New Balance, or Asics on these lists, but that's mainly because they just don't tell us. If they told me, I would tell you guys, but they don't, and they don't really say anything about it online or on their website. So with those releases, we kind of just have to hear about it when they happen. So I don't know, I just want to tell you guys that because I got a lot of comments in the last couple of videos saying like, oh, you're like a Nike stan, you're a Jordan stan. I'm not, I only can report on what I know. But continuing on to February 7th, we've got some more Nike sneakers, the first of which is a women's Nike Zoom Vomero 5 in light Orewood brown. It's a very light brown pair of Nike Zoom Vomero 5s, which is a pair of sneakers that I definitely recommend checking out if you haven't yet. They're super comfortable, they've got that 2000s running sneaker vibe, and they're just incredibly popular right now. They're actually kind of hard to grab. Not impossible though, Nike's released so many colorways now that you can pretty much grab it in any size as long as you're relatively on your game, and for that reason, I am gonna give this shoe a sit. However, I don't think it's gonna sit for like months. I think it'll sit for like 2 weeks max. Let's just say that I found a pair of Nike Zoom Vomero 5s once at the outlet in like 2 years of doing these outlet vlogs. And it was a bright yellow colorway, like the least popular colorway, so take that for what you will. I don't see them sitting very much. Finally, rounding off the 7th, we've got the Nike KD4 Year of the Dragon 2. So this KD4 comes in sort of a tonal brown upper. It's kind of like caramel colored. It features red accents, obviously, for Chinese New Year and the Year of the Dragon, and it's a pretty clean look on the KD4. One of my personal favorite details is the embroidered dragon sort of making its way around the medial side Nike swoosh. It's such a cool hit. Pretty subtle, but pretty clean. Now you may have noticed with some of the previous KD retros that have dropped over the last couple months, they haven't been flying off shelves, but they are moving. This particular colorway, because I'm assuming it's gonna be more limited, will probably be more difficult to get. And after checking resale prices online of this shoe like a week before it drops, they're still pretty high, like $350 to $400. So I would say that I wouldn't be surprised if this shoe ends up moving quickly. So for that reason, I'm giving this shoe a sell. Moving on to February 8th, we've got two different colorways of the upcoming Nike Kobe 8 Protros. Now these two colorways are similar but different. They both featured the same design on the upper except in completely different accent colors. Printed onto the mesh upper of each of these Kobe 8 Protros, you've got Kobe's numbers 8 and 24 patterned across the upper of the shoe. A majority of the color blocking on this shoe is white. In fact, the base color of the upper, the midsole, and of course the tongue all come in white on both colorways. However, the accent color on one of these shoes is Radiant Emerald, which is also the name of that particular shoe. And then you've also got the Court Purples, which again features purple accent and is also the name of the shoe. I love the Kobe 8. I think it's a great looking silhouette. I'd love to have a pair to play basketball in, but also a pair to wear casually. Obviously, I prefer the purple because of my favorite football team.
2nd and 5. Ball batted up into the air and caught.
That said, they're both great looking shoes. I'm going to be going for both of them, and because they're both Kobe 8s, I'm sure these shoes will end up both selling out very quickly. Continuing on to February 9th, we've got two different pairs of Nike SB Dunk Lows dropping, both from the City of Love pack. The first colorway is the coconut milk colorway that comes with a white upper accented by tannish suede details. You've also got this really interesting red stitching detail around the top of the midsole. Pretty simple, pretty clean, but at the end of the day, it is a Nike SB Dunk Low, which means it's going to be more hyped up than if it was a standard pair of Nike Dunks. The other colorway of the City of Love pack is the Burgundy Crush colorway, which obviously comes in primarily burgundy. You've got suede on the upper, you've got these darker burgundy hits on the overlays of the shoe, and all around, it's just a giant burgundy sneaker. Neither of these colorways are my favorite, but if I had to pick one out of the two, I'd probably go with the coconut milk colorway because there's a little bit more variation on the upper of the shoe, and I think that colorway is just a little bit easier to rock, but they're both fine, and if you like both of them, or if you like one over the other, it doesn't matter. That's great, you can try and grab them. The problem is, because they are specifically Nike SB Dunk Lows, they're not going to be as easy to get as if they were just standard Nike Dunks, so the only places that I know of that you can grab them right now are the Sneakers app and skate stores. Possibly some Nike stores, I don't know for sure, but most likely they're going to be harder to get than a standard pair, so for that reason I'm giving both of these colorways, although both of them a sell. Next up on February 10th, we've got the Air Jordan 13 Blue Gray. As you probably could have guessed from the name of this sneaker, this shoe is a blue and gray Air Jordan 13. I will say though that the images make the upper of the shoe look a lot closer to white than to gray. It's possible that the gray references another accent on the shoe, I'm not 100% sure, but either way, it looks a lot like a UNC pair of Air Jordan 13s. I don't know if that's the inspiration behind the shoe, it doesn't say that on the Sneakers app, but that would make sense. Obviously the light blue hits on the shoe come in suede, and then you've also got some yellow accents on the Jumpman on the tongue and also on the outsole of the sneaker, and while it's not the most exciting pair of Air Jordan 13s out there, it's definitely a clean colorway, and if you haven't tried the 13s yet, this is a good way to go. There is definitely a chance that you can get this colorway dirty very easily, especially with the suede on the upper, but it's a clean looking sneaker and I definitely recommend it. The good news is for you, if you are trying to grab these shoes, is that while it is a clean look, I don't think it's going to be that popular, so it shouldn't be that hard to pick up in stores because in my opinion, this shoe will end up sitting on shelves. Dropping on February 13th, we've got the Valentine's Day Nike Air Force 1 Low Layers of Love. So this shoe is a tonal red suede Nike Air Force 1. The toe of the sneaker comes in this bright red, and it slowly sort of ombres, or I guess fades to a darker red as you get towards the heel of the shoe. And I'm not gonna lie, it's not a bad looking sneaker. If you're looking for a pair of red Air Force 1s, this is a good way to go. And I also think this is a great Valentine's Day themed sneaker. It's not too overtly Valentine's Day, so you still can rock it around the year, but it's still got that bright red sort of color of love or layer of love that they reference in the name of the sneaker, which does make it a Valentine's Day sneaker. Will it sell out though? I don't think so. Air Force 1s, unless they're like a special collaboration, don't tend to do that well. So for that reason, I am going to give this shoe a sit. Doesn't mean it's not a clean sneaker, just I think it's going to sit on shelves. Moving on to Valentine's Day itself, February 14th, we've got the Nike Air Foamposite 1 Eggplant. Now I know Foamposites aren't as popular as they once were, and most Foamposite colorways have ended up sitting on shelves for a while. However, this colorway is a colorway that a lot of people have wanted to retro for a very long time. In 2023, even the super limited Foamposites were sitting around at certain boutiques for a while after release, so I wouldn't be surprised if this shoe does end up sitting on shelves, even though it's an incredibly clean purple iridescent colorway. I'm also pretty sure that this is a shoe that was leaked to be the return of the Galaxy Foamposites and ended up being the Eggplants instead, which people are still happy about, but people really want those Galaxy Foamposites. It's a personal grail of mine. But it looks like the Eggplants is what we're getting instead, and like I said, I don't know if the hype is going to be there for this shoe, but I do think there is going to be a lot of people out there who will end up grabbing this sneaker, but will it be enough for this shoe to sell out? I don't know, so for that reason, I'm giving this shoe a sit. Also dropping on the 14th, we've got the women's Air Jordan 1 High White Metallic Gold. This shoe is pretty clean. It comes with a white tumbled leather upper accented by gold hits on the Nike swoosh and around the top of the ankle area. It's pretty similar to one of those like OG white Air Jordan 1s. However, I don't think we ever had a gold OG Jordan 1. I will say that the gold hang tag that comes along with this shoe is pretty cool. Not gonna lie, but is it enough for me to buy the shoe? Probably not. Plus, it only technically comes in women's sizing, and although I am a size 9 and I probably could get a shoe large enough to fit me, I just don't need this shoe in my life. And I think that's the way most people are gonna feel about this release, so because of that, I'm giving this shoe a sit. Don't get me wrong though, the gold accents are clean. I think it's a great looking sneaker, I just don't think it's gonna be hyped. Finally, rounding off the 14th with a China exclusive release, we've got the Chinese New Year Nike Air Force 1 lows. So this shoe is interesting for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's releasing exclusively in China, which makes sense for a Chinese New Year themed sneaker. However, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in this shoe, and I bet this shoe would have sold like crazy if it released in the United States. Obviously, this shoe is themed for the Year of the Dragon, so it's got dragon embroidery all over the upper, plus the dominant color on the upper is gold, which I think looks amazing on this particular shoe. The materials used on the upper look very high quality, and all around, it's just a great looking sneaker. The problem is, not only is this shoe only releasing in China, but it's also $365 retail. That makes me think that they're using some super premium materials on this shoe, kind of like the Tiffany Air Force 1 lows that use like super premium suede and silver and things like that. This shoe looks incredible, probably is great quality, and again, is releasing exclusively in China. But man, the details on this shoe, they are so clean. If I can grab a pair of these for $365 in the US, I might do it. If I can't, I'm not gonna spend like $700 to import the shoe. If I can't, I'm not gonna spend like $700 to import the shoe, but I think it looks great. I can appreciate it from afar. And if you're in China and you're somehow watching this video on YouTube, try and pick up a pair. Now, I'll be honest, I've only been to China once back in 2019, so I don't know what the sneaker market is like over in China, but I'm assuming because this shoe is specifically Chinese New Year themed, because it's priced so high, I think this shoe might be a grail for some people. It's also probably very limited, so for that reason, I'm gonna give this shoe a sell. But again, if you live anywhere outside of China, the chance of you getting a pair of these is slim to none. Moving on to February 15th, we've got a brand new silhouette with the Nike Air Max Plus Drift in the Phantom colorway. Now, I've never been a huge fan of the Air Max Pluses or the Vapor Max Pluses or anything like that, but this Drift variation, the paneling on the upper looks so good. And this Phantom colorway in particular, with that fade from like a reddish brown to a blue towards the back of the shoe, accented by those like cream colored overlay details, it looks amazing. It's a shoe that I would love to pick up. Now, will I grab it for the $185 retail price point? I don't know. Does seem like a lot for a pair that I might wear like 3 or 4 times, let's be real, but it's a clean look nonetheless. Now, what's interesting about the silhouette is that even though it seems like just another lifestyle Nike Air Max, it's relatively hyped up. I've actually seen a lot of information about this shoe specifically because people are interested in it, so it really makes me think, is this shoe gonna be that easy to get? I honestly don't know, but in a lot of cases, whenever I don't know and I end up not going for a shoe, it ends up selling out and then I wish that I had gone for the shoe. So because of that, I'm gonna say if you want the shoe, play it safe, because I think there is a chance that this shoe could sell out. Resale wise, it's not gonna resell for anything, at least not in my opinion, but if you want it, definitely try and grab it on release day, because that might be your only shot. Technology wise, it doesn't seem like there's anything really that different about this shoe. I mean, it just looks like a different take on the Nike Air Max Plus, but regardless, that take is very clean. Also dropping on the 15th, we've got the retro of the Nike KD4 Galaxy. So this shoe first debuted back in 2012 during the All-Star Game, of course, on KD's feet. And it looks like for the first time ever, we're getting a retro of this classic sneaker 12 years later during All-Star Weekend in 2024. This All-Star themed silver-colored KD4 features orange accents, NASA and spaceship inspired hits throughout, like remove before flight. Really cool details that we all love from All-Star sneakers. It's crazy that Nike waited this long to bring this shoe back. If they had retroed this shoe in like 2019, man, people would have gone crazy for it. But in 2024, I don't know if the hype is going to be as crazy as it would have been if they had dropped it, like I said, a couple years ago. But either way, I do think there's a lot of people out there who missed out on the initial release who want to grab this shoe. That being said, do I think this shoe will sell out? Actually, yeah, probably. I wouldn't be surprised. The last shoe dropping on February 15th is the Trophy Room Air Jordan 1 Low. This Trophy Room collaborations design is inspired by the classic 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan rookie card, a basketball card which has become one of the most coveted sports cards of all time. The sneaker features sort of a reverse black toe colorway with red satin hits on the toe and a black sort of corduroy detail on the heel. You've also got Michael Jordan's signature embroidered into the heel in black. In addition to that, you've got the Trophy Room logo embroidered into the lateral side of the sneaker, as well as an embroidered black Nike swoosh. And then finally, rounding off this Air Jordan 1 Low collaboration, you've got a blue insole and a gold insole on either side of the pair, which obviously you won't be able to see when you're wearing the shoe, but they are inspired by the Fleer basketball card. So the colorway that's getting the widest release is a colorway that I just talked about, the Away colorway, and let's be honest, the release itself is not going to be that wide. It's probably going to be a very limited release, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are assuming things about this Trophy Room release that are probably not completely off base, but I don't know for sure. I'm just making assumptions. So getting a pair of these is going to be difficult, but there is also another colorway, the Home colorway, which features a white Nike swoosh and also blue accents and yellow accents along the sides of the leather panels, which I really love. However, I think that pair is either specifically reserved for just the Trophy Room store in Orlando, or maybe it's just a friends and family pair. I'm not 100% sure. I could never really figure out exactly what the deal is with that pair, but getting that pair will be much more difficult than getting the standard pair, even though that pair is going to be insanely difficult to grab as well. All that said, if you want a pair of these, you have your work cut out for you. You either got to have a couple $1,000s ready for resale or be willing to wait in line. at the back door. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding about that. I would like a pair of these, and I just don't see myself getting a pair for retail, and I don't think you should either. So for that reason, I'm giving this shoe an absolute sell. And if you want a pair of these, be prepped to pay resale for it. Next up, on February 16th, we've got the Air Jordan 1 High 85 Metallic Burgundy. While this pair of Jordan 1s looks very similar to and is probably inspired by the OG metallic red Air Jordan 1s, unfortunately, it's not exactly the same. Instead, Jordan Brand opted to use a much more burgundy red than the sort of bright red that we're used to. That said though, this is a pair of Air Jordan 1 85s, and if you're not familiar with what that is, it's essentially an Air Jordan 1 that was redesigned to look just like the original pair that released back in 1985. And for whatever reason, Jordan has decided to make these particular versions of the Air Jordan 1 not only more expensive, but also much more limited and released like maybe 1 or 2 a year. So in a lot of ways, we're almost getting an OG retro of the Air Jordan 1 metallic red, except not exactly, because although the shape's the same and the color blocking's the same, the color itself is not the same. So it's kind of a different thing. As someone who loves the Jordan 1, in my opinion, the Air Jordan 1 85s are the best version of the Air Jordan 1. Not only because they look like the original 1985 Jordan 1s, but also because the materials used on these shoes tend to be better. And yes, they are kind of painful when you first wear them in some cases, but they do break in and they're much more durable, and honestly, after you break them in, more comfortable than a standard pair of Jordan 1s. Also, there's something about the shape of the 85 Jordan 1s that just looks better than these newer versions of the shoe. I just prefer it as a silhouette. Even though this shoe isn't technically the OG metallic red Air Jordan 1s, it's still a clean release. It's still a pair that I'm definitely going to be going for, specifically because it is a 1985 or 85 Jordan 1, and unfortunately also because of that, it's going to be a lot more limited and a lot more difficult to get, and in my opinion, it will absolutely sell out. Then moving on to February 17th, we've got the Bad Bunny Adidas Response CL in Wonder White. So this shoe will be the 6th time that Bad Bunny collaborated on a pair of Adidas Response CLs. And while his collabs on the CLs are not as popular as the forums or even the campuses, it's still a pair of shoes that I think a lot of people will be into. And this Wonder White colorway kind of has that YEEZY 500 vibe to it, which I think a lot of people kind of miss. This monochromatic tan sneaker features this really interesting sort of busy paneling on the upper, which I really like. And then also the Adidas 3 stripes that are sort of these, I guess, straps that feature black lines on either side. It's honestly a pretty solid looking pair of sneakers, and I think it's my favorite Adidas Response CL Bad Bunny collab that's dropped so far, that will drop so far. Now, even though the Response CL is not one of the most popular silhouettes that Bad Bunny and Adidas have dropped, Bad Bunny is still part of the name of the sneaker, and pretty much everything that he drops sells, so because of that, I am giving this shoe a sell. Although now that I'm saying that, I did buy my Bad Bunny Adidas campuses at UBIC, or I guess Atmos, like 2 months after they released, so maybe not everything sells out very quickly, but still, I think the shoe will sell. Also dropping on the 17th is not only the biggest release of this month, but quite possibly the biggest release of the year, the Air Jordan 4 Bred Reimagined. This shoe is so incredibly anticipated, it's crazy. It's not even a collaboration, it's literally a new take on a classic Air Jordan 4 Bred, the OG Air Jordan 4 Bred, and it's one of the most hyped releases of the year. The sheer scale of this release in terms of probably quantity, but also hype levels, are similar to what we had last year with the White Cement Reimagines and the year before with the Lost and Found Air Jordan 1s. This is quite possibly the biggest Jordan Brand release of the year for Jordan Brand specifically. So like I've already mentioned, this shoe is a reimagining, or I guess a material swap, of the classic OG Air Jordan 4 Bred. Now you guys might have already seen my review on this sneaker, and if you want to learn more about this sneaker and possibly pick up a pair for yourself, I definitely recommend checking out my review, linked at the top of the screen. But essentially what Jordan Brand did was take the classic black nubuck upper and switch it out for a black tumbled leather. And as we've seen with releases like the reimagined Air Jordan 1 Royals, material swaps sometimes don't work, but in the case of this shoe, I think tumbled leather is just a more popular material right now than nubuck, and so it seems like people are really all about this release. And again, I reviewed this shoe about 3 weeks ago, so I've had this shoe for a little bit now. I absolutely love it. While yes, I do prefer the original version of the shoe purely because it is the OG, this leather version is fire. And I might be crazy to say this, but this is a shoe that I will try to double up on. If I can get 2 pairs for retail, I'm doing it. Dude, the hype levels for this shoe are off the charts. It feels like we're back in 2020 when everything sold out, or 2012. I don't know if you guys remember that, but in 2012, everything was flying. While I don't think the resale prices of this shoe will hit like $500, I definitely think that if you can't grab a pair of these for retail, you are probably going to be paying at least $100 over the retail price because it is such a coveted release. And so obviously, I think the shoe will absolutely sell out. But in my opinion, one of the best releases of the year and will definitely be on my top 10 list at the end of the year. Moving on to February 23rd, we've got the Clot Adidas Superstar. For the past few years, Edison Chen has been one of the largest sneaker collaborators out there, and a lot of his collaborations have not only been incredibly hyped, but have resold for a ton of money. And while most of the recent Clot collaborations have been on pairs of Nikes, it looks like Edison Chen is trying things out on the other side of the street with an Adidas collaboration. And to be honest, this collaboration is not exactly what I would have expected from a Clot Adidas collaboration. So essentially, this shoe is a pair of Adidas Superstars in white and black, on top of sort of a dress midsole with trail outsole. It's a really interesting look and one that I think a lot of sneakerheads are not gonna love, but a lot of people who are into high fashion might be obsessed with. No, it's not exactly a shoe that I would want to rock personally, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad sneaker. I really love the fact that Edison Chen is trying something different with this collaboration, very different than what he's done with Nike, and I think it's gonna be really cool to see the reception on this shoe. Now, I get that this shoe isn't dropping for another 3 weeks, at least at the time of recording this video, but right now, it's like $500 to buy this pair for resale, which, yes, again, it's early, but that's still a lot for a pair of Adidas superstars. So if you were hyped on these and you were hoping that you'd have an easy chance at getting these, it might not be as easy as you thought, and in my opinion, I do think that this shoe will end up selling out. Continuing on to February 24th, we've got the Air Jordan 1 High Black White. This is another one of those shoes that if it had dropped like 2 years ago, it would have flew off shelves and resold for a decent amount of money. But right now in 2024, I don't know what the hype is gonna be like on this shoe. Colorway wise, this shoe is super clean. It comes in primarily bread color blocking, except instead of having red accents, it has white accents. And it's honestly a super wearable pair of Air Jordan 1 Highs. I don't know about the material quality. I would assume it's pretty similar to standard Air Jordan 1 material quality, which is not great, but it's not terrible. And a big plus for people out there who have families, this shoe comes in full family sizing, so you can literally dress the entire family in Air Jordan 1 black and whites. And honestly, doing that for retail shouldn't be that hard because in my opinion, while this is a very clean colorway, I just don't think the hype for the Air Jordan 1 is as high as it used to be. So for that reason, I think finding pairs of these for retail will be very easy. And I also think that this shoe might end up sitting on shelves. I mean, let's be honest, currently sitting in outlets are the Air Jordan 1 Royal Reimagined and the Satin Bred ones. Both shoes that 2 years ago, I would have lost my mind if I had seen those in an outlet. Now it's kind of commonplace. So a pair that's just a black and white Air Jordan 1, I just don't think the hype is gonna be there. Next up, on February 28th, we've got the women's Air Jordan 5 Lucky Green. There have been so many Lucky Green Air Jordans releasing over the last couple months, like the Lucky Green Air Jordan 1s, which I think are an incredible pair of shoes, but sat for some reason. The Lucky Green 3s were clean as well, and these Lucky Green 5s are also pretty solid. However, hype for Jordans is not what it used to be. And while this white, black, and green pair of Air Jordan 5s might have done really well a couple years ago, in 2024, the hype for the 5s in general just kind of seems dead. And this colorway, while clean, is not that exciting. It's not a collaboration or anything like that. I just don't think people are gonna run out to the store and grab this shoe, especially because it's a women's exclusive. So for that reason, I'm giving this shoe a sit. But hey, that pretty much wraps things up for this month's Sit or Sell. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this, and I will see you all in the next one.